What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Fans FC. And today we're going to be talking about the very fun, in my opinion, Club World Cup that just passed a couple weeks ago. We're a little late to this, but we wanted to talk about it. We wanted to gather our thoughts and everything that's going on. There was a lot of soccer stuff happening over the past few weeks between this, the Gold Cup, transfers, and all this other stuff. But let's get straight into it. I'm going to bounce it off to you first, Will. We're just talk about the thoughts of our tournaments. What do you like? What did you dislike? And did it live up to your expectations?
Yeah, dude. That's a very like juicy, almost like low key broad, but a good question. I like that. I like that. It did. Well, actually, no. Let me rephrase that. It did live up to expectations, but to not my expectations. It surpassed my expectations, dude. I kind of come into this tournament. I mean, you guys can ask Julian himself, and I know we'll speak about it later, but dude, I had very low expectations for this tournament, dude. I didn't feel like the teams would really care. I didn't really feel like fan bases would show up at all. And I mean, even including teams within CONCACAF and CONMEBOL. I just I didn't feel like the energy was there for this tournament. I knew it was the first time, obviously the first edition of this brand new format for the Club World Cup. But yeah, my going into this tournament, dude, I had very low expectations. It just didn't feel like it was gonna have that sort of finesse that a lot of other tournaments have. Obviously, we see within the Champions League and Europa League, and I mean even the Copa Libertadores, within the club level as well, has that kind of that I guess you could say that gratitude towards the tournament. But it just didn't feel like it with this one. But dude, listen, man, FIFA they do their thing. And all props to them. I think this was an incredibly ran format of the tournament. I think it was simple to it. I think it was a not too long of a tournament, decent length. It wasn't just a quick little 18 format tournament, and then nobody really watched any of the games. But it felt like this was a tournament that was catching a lot of people's attention. Seeing the social media buzz, seeing the buzz around cities and stadiums. I'll say myself, like I was very thankful. I was able to go to two Club World Cup games in Orlando, Benfica versus Auckland, which the fan base turnout was nowhere compared to the Flamengo game that I went later down in the week for. But still, it was incredible to see the teams there, the environment, the fans that did show up and show out for these games. So yeah, overall expectation wise, like I said, for me, I had the bar kind of already going low into this tournament, completely surpassed by the World Cup.
Yeah, I will say for me, I thought it met my expectations. I guess I was a little higher on it than you and most other people. I thought for the most part, you're going to get big showings from some of especially the South American and North American teams. I had a feeling, and I figured for like most of the Asian and African teams, you're probably not going to see a lot of huge fan base. But even then, the African supporters for those Wydad and Al Ali, they showed up more than I anticipated. I did not expect that. They came in there, they made their presence known, and I thought overall, like, yeah, I liked it a lot. I loved actually seeing these weird matchups like finally happening. It feels like there's a certain sort of like everybody's actually has a chance who were supposed to be there, who got there. Some of the things I disliked, just it's a small thing, but I don't even know if you could really fix it. Is maybe the stadium situation. I think for some of it, we had too many big stadiums for such weird times in the scheduling, like Monday at 3 p.m., which it's like,
Yeah.
I know you're trying to cater towards like fan bases around the world, which makes sense. And I completely understand because that's probably where you're going to get most of your viewership if you're FIFA. But trying to find a way to kind of work around that, I don't know. Like it's a weird situation to handle. It's really hard. So it led to a lot of like cooling breaks and stuff like that. So maybe next iteration, or it might be in a completely different country, so that might change. But yeah, just some of the dislikes was really just I felt like some of the stadiums are too big, which is weird because in the United States we don't really have a in between. I think 40,000 seats would be great, but all MLS stadiums are usually around 20 to 25. NFL football stadiums are like 65 to 80. So there's not, we need a little bit more of that great area, which you do get in college football stadiums. But the problem is most college football stadiums are not in cities. They're in random towns in the middle of nowhere. So that would be my only like gripe with the tournament as a whole would be that. But let's bounce over to leagues slash team performances. I kind of want to like, depending on how you feel, if you want to say like, all right, this is a specific team, or maybe there was just one team in one league, whatever it might be. What team do you think or league had a stock up overall after the end of this tournament?
I think, dude, listen, I'll give you two quick answers. I'm going to go with my slam dunk answer, Julian. And then I'm also going to go with a little bit of a kind of, I guess you could say, a little bit of an alley oop answer. Or that's a bad analogy. I'm going to go more with a little bit of a 3 point shot, I guess you could say, or a half court buzzer
All
beater.
right.
I'll go with the slam dunk Comde Bowl, dude. I think absolutely phenomenal. I wasn't able to pull up the stats
The
before we
entire
hopped on
Confederation.
here. The entire confederation, dude. Listen, I obviously I understand in regards that River Plate and Boca Junior did not qualify out of the group stage, but even the showings and the displays that they had in this tournament, I mean, going toe to toe with Bayern Munich is not for anybody. That's not just some basic. I mean, we've seen teams get absolutely ran out of the ballpark here in
Dude, and then they
UEFA.
went toe to toe to Auckland. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, but my thing is like Boca went toe to toe. I mean, dude, River Plate. I think River Plate, out of all the teams, I obviously, I think that Boca game, I think they realized against Auckland, this game didn't mean much for shit. It was kind of pointless after that. In regards to the rest of the teams in Conmebol Bowl, I think they show not only the quality that they have, but to the rest of the world, this is who we are, and we have some of the best ball in the world. And I think the Brazilian league absolutely proved that yet again. I know, obviously, Julian and me, we've had this debate whether or not they're a top five league in the world, if they're top 10, top seven, whatever it is. 1,000% they're top 10. I will go as far as saying they are borderline. They're catching up to France. They're right there. I just think obviously, when you break it down as a league as a whole, yes, I will have to still give League On the pass on that one. But the Brazilian league is showing not only do they just have this flair and they have this kind of samba to them and the players move fast and stuff like that, but they have the technical ability to compete with any one of these teams in the world. Like you did say earlier, Julian, yes, I agree. Obviously, the temperatures were rough. Obviously, yes, I agree. The times were different for a lot of these players. Yes, the travel, yada, yada, yada. But dude, these guys had to do the same thing as well. And Enzo Maresca, which not a bad guy, Pep Guardiola's twin evil brother over at Chelsea, made a comment talking about how the European teams had more games and yada yada this and that. I don't know if you saw that, dude, but that was, I thought, a pretty sick response by a news reporter. A Brazilian reporter responded back to him in Portuguese, and he said like over, I don't remember the exact number of games that they said, but it was about like 10 to 15 more games in that calendar year compared to Chelsea's games, or other European teams. So I thought that was quite impressive. I thought, kind of hush him up a little bit with all that conversation. But yeah, like I said, with the slam dunk answer, dude, it's CONMEBOL. I think they performed well. Obviously, both the Fogo Palmeiras, Flamengo, like I had mentioned, I was there. I mean, absolutely all four Brazilian teams made it out of the group stage. All four competed. Obviously, Fluminense making a semifinal, Palmeiras making a quarterfinals, and just all around impressive. Now, my kind of a little bit, like I said, my half point shot, a little bit of a 3 point shot, a buzzer beater. I have to go with, and you might be kind of like curious on this one, and you might be like asking me why. Will I'm going to go with Africa. I just think these teams showed, obviously it wasn't this superb performances and anything insane, but going into this, I think we expected least from Africa than we would have from CONCACAF. And the African teams, quite honestly, I will have to say, dude, kind of impressed me. Obviously, Mamelodi Sundowns were able to go toe to toe with the Borussia Dortmund. What was it? Tunis went toe to toe with teams like Flamengo. They went toe to toe with teams like LAFC. Obviously, take that for how that is, but still, these are teams that a lot of people kind of looked at and were just kind of, going to pass over, get ran out of the park. I mean, even Wydad didn't look that rough. Obviously losing to Juventus and City is more than likely going to happen to him, but still, I think for the overall point, and we already mentioned it earlier, the fan base was, I mean, dude, watching those teams was absolutely electric. It was incredible to see from all around.
Yeah, I'll go for my stock up. I'm agree with you, but I'm not gonna say Commonable as a whole. I'm gonna say just Brazil. I think Brazil absolutely showed out. They really stretched their legs and like flexed on them and really showed like we are here, we are a top five league, and like look, people can have debates and stuff, and I'm kind of on the ballpark where I think Brazil has surpassed France. If we look at the French teams that have made it in a Champions League and their performances the past couple years have been very weak. Versus when you see what Brazil did in this Club World Cup, they did more. More teams did more than what the French teams has done in the past like 4 years. Let's say, for examples, outside of PSG, obviously. But like I said, that's a debate for another day. But I think they've definitely put themselves in a conversation where they're teams that have to be respected. I mean, beating Botafogo, beating PSG, Flamengo beating Chelsea, like these are big results. You know what I mean? Like Palmeiras, like to me, absolutely dominating Porto. Like they really made their presence known, and now with this the amount of betting money that's now coming into that league and stuff and being able to spend, I would like to see a Brazilian league eventually switch to like a regular calendar. That'd be kind of cool, but obviously that'll probably never happen. But yeah, and then my other one, because I have three just like you. My other one, I don't want to say specifically, but I'm gonna bounce kind of CONCACAF as a whole. I expected CONCACAF to get absolutely embarrassed, to be honest with you. I think your expectations were a little higher than mine. I thought no team got embarrassed. Yes, Seattle lost to PSG 4-0, but so did Atletico Madrid. You know what I mean? So that was PSG was just rolling at that point. But Seattle looked good against Botafogo. Granted, this was a down Botafogo team, but you could say like there's like they should have won that game at certain points. Like they could have at least tied it. And I thought Seattle, a team that I wasn't super high on, I thought they were probably going to perform the worst. We're we're the second best MLS team, but only behind Inter Miami. I thought LAFC was the only team that kind of was lackluster. I thought Pachuca really disappointed, in my opinion. But and then obviously the two big ones, the two that got it out of the group. I mean, you can't go without saying like Monterrey made it out. That's a team that has a lot of like veterans on there that did well, and they were prepared for this type of tournament. You know, getting a result against
Inter Milan.
oh my God, who did they beat? What was that?
Well, they tied Inter Milan and then they beat Orwa Red Diamonds
That's what
and
it was.
tied
That was the big
Uruguay.
result. Tied Inter Milan. They beat River, or no, they drew River, which a lot of people did not have them be getting a result on. Yeah, I was really impressed. I thought they were very defensively solid. Obviously, Sergio Ramos made his presence known for that team, and then obviously you can't go without Inter Miami. I mean, dude, this team arguably should have won the group if they didn't fumble the bag against Palmeiras. Like, and who knows how far they would have made it, because if they beat Palmeiras in that final game and not let them tie, then you're playing a Botafogo team that isn't as good as Palmeiras. They could have potentially advanced to the next round. So looking back at that, you're like, man, you didn't want that tie. But you can't say like I thought Inter Miami. You saw how down I was coming into the tournament. I thought they were going to get last. Ended up getting a result in every single game. So shout out to them. And then my final one, I don't want to say it as a league. This is just as a team as a whole. I'll say Al Ali. Um, Al Hilal. My bad. Al Hilal. I get these things mixed up. Al Hilal, the Saudi Arabian team. I think a lot of people thought they were going to get made fun of because they're spending hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars getting these what some people would call washed up players. People, guys past their prime, all this stuff. But they kind of showed, obviously making it to a quarterfinal, that like, hey, we're gonna make a spot. We at the end of the day, we have players, and I think they got what they wanted. They wanted to look competitive on the world stage. It would have looked really, really bad if after all this money, and then you get like knocked out of the group stage. But you got a pretty amazing result against Manchester City. So I'm gonna give them a plus. I think all that money they spent actually kind of led to something. So they're still never going to get their money back, but at least it showed that some of these players still got a little bit of when it comes to these like kind of knockout tournaments. We can go to stock down. I can say my
Yeah.
stock down real
Wait,
quick.
can I make a quick just comment real
Yeah, go
fast on the
ahead.
Saudi Arabia? I agree with you. Definitely stock up for Al Hilal in regards to their team. Julian, I will definitely admit, and I know we've talked about this a lot already here on the pod as well. I will say for Al Hilal in regards, stock up for team wise, for momentum, whatever they want to do in the future, obviously money wise, stuff like that. They've already got the money. They didn't really need this cash grab of a tournament. But I would still say not a stock necessarily stock down, but there's no momentum within the youth. There's no momentum within, youth production and what they're going to be able to provide on the field. Because, like I said, dude, it kind of reminds me when I look at Al Hilal, it reminds me a little bit of like a Suriname. You know what I mean? Or even, I hate to say this, but kind of even regards like a Jamaica. We're not even going to try to get guys that are, young talents, youth talents. We're just going to try to get these guys, and obviously with Al Hilal, it's even worse than you would look at like a team in the Caribbean because they're buying these guys, they're buying these players. They have no connection,
Oh yeah,
absolutely
there's no
nothing. So
development.
yeah, so I think that's a little bit of an L still on their part, but I don't think
Yeah,
that'll
and
ever
that's a
change.
deeper conversation. Like, yeah, the lack of infrastructure and stuff. But yeah, give us your stock down.
Stock down. Oh, I can't go a confederation fully because, like you said, I was looking at obviously. I mean, dude, listen, you can't really give, like you said, Concacaf a stock down. Obviously, besides OFC, because that was atrocious from Auckland. But but still, like Concacaf as a whole, I just felt
Was it
like you said,
atrocious? They got a result.
they got a result. Honestly, props to them. They were able to go in against 30,000. I don't know how many screaming Argentinians and yelling at them, pelotudo, boludo, puto, and everything. So good for them, dude. But yeah, honestly, in regards, I'll give you two quick name teams. You already kind of hit on one. I'm going to hit on them again, Pachuca. I think this was a team that going into this tournament, a lot of people said, obviously not a favorite to get out of the group, even in second place, but a team that was kind of lingering around there that could they do it? Could they not? This was the group of life. Obviously, Real Madrid was the heavy favorite as they, were supposed to be. And then kind of from there, it was kind of house money who was going to get it, either them, Red Bull Salzburg, or Al Hilal. Obviously, we saw the final result on that. So I think that made it interesting in that case for Pachuca. Obviously, like you said, the performances did not seem to level and to expect what we were expecting. Myself, I will say, from Pachuca. But obviously, with that being said, it was still a tough group, realizing that they didn't have it. But the names that they had on this team, this was before they sold Solomon Rondon. Then he went back to Spain. This was a team that still had, or they just signed the other Venezuelan, Jonder Cadiz, and other, I mean, obviously, Chaca Rodriguez, a longtime Mexican veteran, the young kid, Elias Montiel, so this is not a team that was lacking within development or players or experience or anything like that. So I think that was kind of disappointing on their end, but I think Pachuca learned from it. They already seem to be doing kind of decently well now in Leagues Cup. So, and my other team that I've got to honestly say, dude, and this is more of a whole, I'm going to include both of these clubs, dude. It's and not necessarily much Benfica, but I'm going to lump them in there as well, just because I did expect a little bit more from them. It's going to be Benfica and Porto. More obviously that this is more leaning on the Porto side, but still, both of those teams. I mean, dude, just very very nonchalant performances. Like I said, Benfica, I will give it to them. They redeemed themselves that last game by tying Bayern Munich, or excuse me, not tying, winning, beating Bayern Munich in Charlotte. So good for them. Obviously, tied Boca. And Boca's no easy team, like we already kind of talked about. Had a lot of grit in this tournament, but in regards to Porto, just very, very, like I said, dude, very lackluster. Not the type of team that we've expected or seen over in Europe. Estaquiao just looked all sorts of lost on the field. Samu, the big 6'4" striker from Spain. I mean, the young lad just, he just didn't seem like he ever was clicking at certain moments with the team. And honestly, dude, I have to say as well, it just seemed like the team was never really in that first gear. Obviously, props to other teams in Group A that were able to get results against them, and that's all the other three teams. But FC Porto, in that regard, just seemed to to disappoint and not really bring a full team, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100% agree with both of those calls. Chuka, I thought really underwhelmed considering the group that they had. And yeah, I'm going to go the Portuguese league as a whole. Yeah, sure, Benfica made it out, but this is a group, like you said, that had Auckland City on it where everybody was supposed to blow them out 5+ goals, except Boca. They didn't get the memo. They left it down in Buenos Aires. Um, so they were kind of handed a gift for that second place. And then Porto just getting completely outplayed by like every team. Like even Ali, like they got outplayed by Inter Miami, got outplayed by Ali, and then got demolished by Palmeiras. Like as a whole, I thought the Portuguese league, and this has been a continuous trend that's happening that we're seeing even in Champions League, where they're just going down. They're getting less and less competitive. Like, a lot of people say, oh, Portugal over Brazil. That's clearly not the case right now. And then my final one is going to be the Argentinian league. I think this is another league that you're slowly starting to see the decline of it because whether it be the economic situations that's happening there, their young players leaving earlier and earlier to go to not just to Europe, but to come to MLS, to go to Brazil. I think it's another league that just it's slowly. This is a Boca team that you think like, okay, this is a weak Benfica team. You should be able to beat them. They couldn't. This is a River who I would arguably say is probably the better team out of Monterrey, and they couldn't get the result. I thought at times the Japanese team Uara Diamonds looked good against them. So I think Argentinian league as a whole has got to be a stock down, and both of these, Argentina and Portugal, are both kind of in these same trajectories where it just feels like they're just not able to keep up with the rest. We'll close it out here. So, what is your one big takeaway out of the tournament? Out of everything that's ended, what is your one big takeaway
One big
after this
takeaway.
first
One
new
big
edition?
takeaway. Yeah, yeah. My biggest takeaway, dude, is if I'm gonna be real with you, Julian, I think at every award ceremony we need to have Donald J. Trump at the now play. No, I played, dude. No, I real quick side note, side comment, dude. I thought that was very interesting. Listen, I respected. It's not a political channel, guys. Before I say anything, I want to keep that out there.
Not the real trophy, which is crazy.
Yeah.
The real
What?
trophy is still in the Oval Office. That's hilarious. That's
Yeah,
wild.
that I did see that. That is wild. I don't know. I just thought I saw literally Cole Palmer's face whenever he was up on the stage, and I was kind of like I thought it was obviously at the trophy ceremony, dude, shaking hands. I'm more for that. I love that, dude. Obviously, he's the president of the United States. Go absolutely be up there, But celebrating with them, I was a little bit like I don't know. Did he steal the stage? Did he
That's
steal the moment
weird.
from the Chelsea players, dude? I don't know. I'll let the public decide that one, but I thought it was interesting. I thought it was unique. It was unique. I'm not against it. I'm not for it. I'm neutral on it. I'm Switzerland, so I thought it was interesting. But on a real note, dude, biggest takeaway from this tournament, and I'm gonna be real with you, Julian, is that teams and this is something I think we can really tell not only from the players, but we saw this from the fans, dude. And obviously we alluded to it earlier within when we were talking about it was the fan bases, the absolute passion, the drive, the enthusiasm that these teams bring. It was remarkable. It was absolutely remarkable. And with that being said, I feel like watching how these fans performed and how these fans pulled up to games and how they tailgated and how they arrived to stadiums and the chants and the cheering your team on and going crazy and maybe some fans getting belligerently drunk, whatever it was, dude. I think that showed not only to the American fan base but to the entire world that club soccer is legit. It's not just, as a lot of times, and as I will say this myself, as more of a national team guy, obviously I'm gonna always root for more for watching national games. I'm obviously more excited for the World Cup. I'll even keep it real with the Julian. I mean, obviously a CONCACAF guy myself. I was excited more at moments for the CONCACAF Gold Cup, with that being a national team tournament here and hosted in our region. So not only did it show that, yes, these teams matter and their clubs are important, but the fans care. The fans do care a lot, a lot, a lot. And you had alluded to it earlier, and we had talked about the Portuguese league. I saw when Porto got back home, dude, when a lot of their players were arriving back from the airport, getting cussed at, getting yelled at, getting screamed at. For people to say that fans didn't care, they didn't really watch these games, dude,
You
because it
didn't
was
want to get embarrassed
absolutely
at the same time. Like,
exactly, yeah. You don't want to get embarrassed, and you don't want to get that secondhand, accusations of your team's not a fraud. Your team's not good enough. Your team can't live up to the potential. But yeah, dude, I would say that's my biggest takeaway is just to see the the passion that these teams have and the fan bases have.
my big takeaway, and it might be controversial, but
Mhm.
it may not be. I mean, if you're a diehard European football fan, you might think I'm absolutely crazy. But I'm going to say this in that I think for way too long, we have overrated Europe. The gap is not as big as we, or as a lot of Europeans like to project that it is. There is a gap. Europe is better. I'm not saying that they're not, but the gap is not as big as we thought it was. And I think this tournament, above all, has exposed the fact that, yes, the elite of the elite is still a lot better, obviously. But Europe as a whole is not as good as we thought it was. These middling kind of teams, like your Salzburgs, like your Sevillas, your Portos, your Benficas, all the, whether it be the Netherlands, we didn't see them in this tournament, but like let's say a Feyenoord, PSV, Ajax, or whatever. I don't think the gap is as big as we like to think it is. And I think that opened a lot of eyes to people. And some people are going to say that are going to cope and say, oh, like you were saying, teams didn't care, the fans didn't care, the players didn't care. Are you kidding me? You know how much money was on the line? Like to say they didn't care. And at the end of the day, no matter what, you don't want to be embarrassed. Like, and I just think, and I heard somebody say it, and I can't remember the channel, but it was really interesting. And they said that honestly, the difference between like the elite level pros and a lot of like guys who play professionally in maybe let's say the top 15 leagues, the gap between those players are not that big. A lot of it's just mentality and just that little extra oomph that they have from their technical ability. But it's not like me and you will hopping out on the field and going against Vinicius Jr. and fucking Mbappe. The gap's not like that, and a lot of people like to think it is, but it's not. Because we've seen, and I've always felt this way, because you see players come from Europe and go to Brazil, they go to MLS, or they go to Liga MX, and they struggle. So I've always kind of had this like theory. I'm like, the gap can't be that big. And we've learned that it's not. It's really not. This team alone, they made it to a final, a Champions League final, and went 1-1 against Monterrey. Like, like the gap is not as crazy as we like.
Lots of Fluminense.
And then my other final takeaway that I feel like no one's talking about, we saw the biggest upset in football history. We witnessed I don't even know if you want to call it upset because it was a draw. Let's say the biggest result in football history in terms of rankings. Auckland City is probably one of the worst ranked teams in the world. I couldn't even name you what rank it is.
I can't give that result.
Not even professional.
Boca was already eliminated, dude. I just genuinely don't feel.
No, they weren't. I mean, Boca had to score like 7 goals, which if you looked at what Benfica and Bayern did, you think, okay, Boca could probably put up 6 on them. Either way, nonetheless, result is a result. They got the draw. That has to be one of the biggest. You tell that to Boca fans down in Argentina, they were so pissed. I saw so many videos saying that they lost to a semi-professional, not lost, but they drew a semi-professional team. It's basically a loss at that point. Like, it is one of the biggest results, I think, in history. It's going to go down in the record books that no one's talking about. Like, that is insane. Imagine if Panama beat fucking out of Spain. You would never be like, oh, Spain was already eliminated. You would say you'd be like, I don't care if they got eliminated. No, but I'm saying if they got eliminated.
This is saying like if Barbados went down to like Montevideo and knocked out Uruguay or something like that, or if they beat like Colombia, like that's the type of level we're talking about. Or if they got a result.
You think it's even get bigger?
Yeah, I'm talking about like, dude, if freaking Curacao went overseas and they, went to Wembley Stadium and knocked out England from the Euros, like that would be like
Drew England.
My gosh, yeah. Like I think it's that type of level. Yeah. I agree. Listen, I think this tournament, and kind of like you said, dude, I think it shows. And something I also kind of want to add a little bit real quick, Julian, and I want to kind of shout out these guys, dude, is John Arias and Richard Rios. A lot of times you had kind of mentioned it, obviously, about the gap and whatnot. Dude, John Arias just made a move. I didn't see it. If I'm not wrong, it was for about 15. I can't remember the exact million, but
it was
he is
22
going,
or something like that. I think it might have been
over 20. He's going to Wolves, and then Richard Rios obviously is already over in Benfica right now. I just think it shows that no.
I'm just kidding.
It's weird because it's like as a team, it's tough. But it's also, dude, the point I was trying to get is that to see the platform that was used for these both of these two gentlemen, dude. Listen, I know Richard Rios has his controversies on and off the field and whatever, but John Audius, man, absolutely, I love John. I really do. I love the player that he is and the performance that he puts in, dude. Massive shout out to both of those guys and other players as well, dude. I don't know if you saw Wasoum Abu Ali, the Palestinian striker from Al Hali, if I'm pronouncing that right, made a move to the Columbus Crew, dude. Massive, humongous shout out for him, dude. I thought that was awesome. So to see the platform that a lot of these players took advantage of, incredible, dude. Incredible to see for them.
Yeah, 100%. And we're going to wrap it up there. If you guys enjoyed this content, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you're listening on audio platforms, please check that out. I also forgot to pimp it out in the beginning of this episode, but we released our first episode of This Week in Football. I wanted to post it up on YouTube so everybody can see it and get a vibe for it. But here going forward, if you've made it this far, if you want to see more This Week in Football, obviously it was me and Adam in the first episode, but Will's going to be there. It might just be me solo, whatever. Whoever's going to be available, we're going to be trying to knock these out every week. Just talking, just chatting, whatever it might be. If you're interested in stuff like that, go check out that exclusive content on Spotify. Like I said, we got a little taste of the first one on the YouTube channel. So going forward, it's just going to be on there. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out, everybody.